Well, thanks for watching another edition of Parenting the Clay Way. I'm John Clay, and I'm here with Travis McCabe.
Hi.
From Green Bean Coffee. Travis brought me a coffee today, which was very nice. So don't mind saying that it's very good.
It's one of the perks of getting to work with me.
Yeah, I know. It's great. I hope this was going to happen.
It's not all the time thing. Don't get used to it.
No, I know. We are talking about bedtime today.
Yes.
And I have to say, it has to be, one of those things you definitely pull your hair out as a parent. You probably went through the worst of it already.
Yes.
But you still have some issues having teens,
Right.
older teens.
Right.
And I'm in the middle of the suckiness,
Right.
as it is, the meat of the suckiness. With the 4, 6, and 8-year-old, they definitely want to push the limit, and they also want the same treatment, which isn't always fair. That I want to treat the 4-year-old or 6-year-old different than the 8-year-old, and they don't like that, of course, at all, and they don't think it's fair. So,
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about bedtime in general. I'm just going to say, for me, my bedtime was always in that 8:30 to 9 p.m. throughout my whole childhood, pretty
Right.
much all the way up into high school, which was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Often weird when you would be trying to go to sleep. You were being told to go to sleep when it's light out still.
Right.
That was totally unfair. And I could see other kids playing out my window. I remember...
I can see little John looking out the window like, oh!
I definitely remember to this day. I mean, that's 40 years ago, and I still remember that feeling.
Sure.
Of like, this sucks. This is not fair. Those kids are playing, and I'm stuck in bed.
Right.
So what about you for your growing up, and then did you follow... And by the way, I'm trying to follow that with my kids as
Right.
close as I can. What happened with you growing up and then with your kids?
You know what? Like I said, I was raised in a single-parent home, and my mom, she really didn't give me a strict bedtime. She's always said I was such a good kid, But, I had boundaries. Let me put it to you that way. She would be like, I expect you to go to bed by this. Mm-hmm. It wasn't hard in stone. It wasn't, this or this was going to happen. She expected me to be in bed by an X of time, because she was always a firm believer I would go to bed when I'm tired. As long as I wasn't sleeping on the couch whenever, she woke up the next morning, I was in bed and everything was up and I was doing everything. It was kind of fine, but, my personal bedtime, though, I even remember through school, I didn't really go past like 10 o'clock or anything like that. That was kind of like my knowing cutoff time and whatnot, and that's kind of the staple I've always done, with my son Braden. It's, let's shoot for, well, when he was younger, it was always 9 o'clock, but as he's gotten older, it's 10, and now he's a teen. I'm like, just as long as you get up, your alarm is set.
Well, I think a key is recognizing what happens to them in the morning.
Right.
Are they sleeping in? They're so tired you have to try to wake them up,
right.
Which is ridiculous that I'm going to have to drag you out of there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you need to be getting to bed a little bit earlier.
Sure.
And on the same token, if you go too early, they're going to get up early too, and
right.
Some parents I know would be glad to keep their kids up a little later so that then they stay in if they don't want them up really early.
Yeah, it's trying to find that sweet spot.
Yeah. So I think that one of the things you mentioned is you didn't seem to take advantage of your mom and basically stay up till midnight, 1 a.m. and make an issue out of it.
Right. No. And I never did. My son Braden, at times when he was younger, he would throw a fit, being like, oh, why is this, why is that? And I'm like, you pull the parent cards because I said so.
Yeah.
It's time for bed,
Yeah.
Enough is enough. As I've got older, dealing with school, that becomes a little bit more, especially now that I'm expecting it to kick back into play. Doesn't matter if they're teenagers, a bedtime's a bedtime. Mm-hmm. And it's weird to tell a teenager you have a bedtime, but for a fact they have school the next morning. For a fact that they got to catch a bus. And for a fact that bus is now coming in at 6:55 in the morning whenever, summers they're sleeping into 11, or whatever. Breaking that habit early on, it's like, hey, just get up. We expect you to be up,
Mm-hmm.
And now, me personally, I can't sleep in past 7 a.m.
Yeah.
If I sleep into 7, that's late for me.
Yeah.
And even if I even go to bed late, 1:30, 2 o'clock, which, might be early for some people, late for me, that I still have a tendency to wake up around 7. It's just my natural built-in, instinct. But I know, like, with a couple of our boys, if they are up, during the school year, and it is, let's say, bedtime's at 10 o'clock for them, and they throw the fit, and they throw a fit, and they do this, and they'll lay in bed, and they'll play on their phones. And there's times where, like, you know what, before you go to bed, I want your phone, I want your controllers, I want this. I want you to be able to sleep, because I know for a fact you're going to be downstairs playing, doing something. You're not going to get to bed till 2, and then it's going to be a struggle waking you up, because I'll be the one that's waking you up, and your alarm went off 20 times.
Well, and I noticed from a friend who has kids about the same age as I do, he had a much more relaxed way about it. And so his kids, even being 8 and 10 or 12 years old, were still staying up well into close to midnight. And, of course, just playing video games the entire time.
Right.
And, of course, as we understand, those video games aren't going to let you go to sleep very well. They keep you all amped up. And so I definitely recognize that's not a method I want to follow.
Right.
And to be able to keep the video games out of the equation as we get into even just right before bedtime, as tough as it is. I mean, I know eventually maybe I'm gonna be outnumbered or whatever on the video game thing. I recognize that, but for now, I'm just drawing a line, and it just doesn't happen in the evening times, and frankly, it hardly happens at all.
Right.
Because I just have figured out if I let him play games a little, it just is a constant request and pressure. So it's actually a lot easier for me, and this is a tip if anyone has issues about it, like cut the cord in a certain way. If you have problems with your kids being little jerks about the video games, cut it out and see. It usually takes a few days for me, but they forget about it, and we rotate on to something else, and that is now no longer really being discussed.
Right.
And I found that we've talked about video games before, but that for me at nighttime is a real issue. So what do I do? A couple of things that I wanted to bring up that I like to do with bedtime. One, routine consistency in terms of brushing teeth. Put your pajamas on. We're getting in bed. And it just so happens I tell stories.
Sure.
So I'll do I make up a story from scratch every night, and I let them say what they want to put into the story, and then I incorporate it into the story. So it helps me keep the storytelling ability. Now, it just so happens they almost always pick superhero. They all want to turn into superheroes, and that's what they want me to say.
As they should.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, in our family, superheroes a big deal. So I come up with these different ways where each of my kids gets bitten by the spider and turns into Spider-Man, or all that stuff every night.
Right.
And then we also sing a song, and that song I know. So I do Silent Night every single night for all the boys, all 3 boys. And when I'm singing that song, and they sometimes sing with me, I could tell they just start to drift off a little bit. And this is that key, like the cue to just, okay, this is bedtime. Your body should just start to relax now.
Right.
It's like a little meditation thing.
Right.
So it really works well, and I think I've found that when I'm doing the song, that's the key that everyone knows. Okay, this is the end, and this is the end of it. We might have fluctuated a little bit, so that is one thing. And then now with the older child, do I allow him to again stay up a little bit because the other ones are in bed, and he wants to play a board game or something, or do something, or read or whatever, and I'm kind of jostling on allowing that a little bit. I do feel like I want to allow the older kid a little bit of leeway. I don't know.
Right. Well, with age comes perks, and, but also I think it's a responsibility aspect. It's like, hey, I'm trusting you to stay up later, but I'm also trusting you to be responsible enough to know that you're up later, but it doesn't change the fact that you still have to be up. You still have to function through school. Everything that needs to be done tomorrow needs to be done. I don't want to hear that you're tired, because if that starts rolling and that starts happening, guess what?
Yeah.
You're clipped back.
I think that's a great point, that allowing the children leeway as long as they can handle it. And okay, well, you're doing just fine on that, but then when they're stumbling and not able to perform in the morning or at school or get up or whatever, then we can have a rational discussion almost as adults saying, look, this is going on and it's affecting you in this way, so we really need to cut it out. It's not you being dad saying I'm a jerk and I'm going to say no to you. It's like, this is just a consequence of what you're doing and it's not working, so let's change the bedtime to an earlier time and let's see how that goes.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Problem solve. Take the change out of the equation and go back to basics again. And take it from there.
I think that idea of coming up, that one of the questions you have is, how do I solve problems as a parent without yelling? and without being this heavy hand.
Right.
How do I have just a conversation with them on a very rational level, and with love in my heart, as opposed to now I'm upset, I'm pissed, I'm like want to yell, and
Right.
feel like we talked about that before.
Right.
So that strategy of knowing, oh well, I'm gonna give them a little leeway and see how they do with it, and that'll allow for a rational conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you nailed it. Getting their input, having a conversation, having them feel like, that they had a part of the decision making, whether it's going to bed early or not, and they're like, what, yeah, this is working. This is what I need to do. But, at the end of the day, they were a part of this, solving it. Or getting a bedtime set for them,
Yeah.
If you're saying, hey, go to bed at 8, and they're saying I want to go to bed at 9, like, all right, well, let's split the difference and say 8:30. You're getting more. We'll see where we're at. If everything works at 8:30, we'll play it by there.
Yeah.
But at least you're getting their input.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, we had some good ideas shared there, and we'd love to get your ideas on how to handle bedtime with your kids. Drop us a line on our Facebook page. Send us an email, clay@wtajtv.com. We look forward to catching you next time on Parenting the Clay Way. I'm John Clay.
I'm Travis McCabe.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Later, guys.